Jack Smith, the special counsel who brought a pair of felony cases against Donald Trump, one accusing him of attempting to overturn the 2020 election and one accusing him of illegally retaining classified documents, moved to drop both sets of charges against him today. The classified documents case had already been dismissed by the district court judge and is up on appeal for the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And the election interference case, the request for dismissal was accepted by the judge. And essentially, that case is now also been dismissed. Trump has named most of the people he plans to nominate for cabinet posts in his administration, but a few jobs remain, including the U.S. Trade Representative and the heads of the Council of Economic Advisors and the Small Business Administration. In other news, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the longest-serving U.S. senator, is stepping down from his leadership post in January, a move he has told colleagues has left him feeling liberated. McConnell has telegraphed that he plans to prioritize two issues that just happen to be subjects on which he disagrees strongly with Trump. That's foreign policy and the Senate's institutional independence, that is. And the Democratic National Committee will elect a new chairman on February 1st, the party announced today, as it reels from President-elect Donald Trump's victory earlier this month. Democrats will hold 4 public forums throughout January for candidates to make their pitches ahead of the party's winter meeting in National Harbor, Maryland, just outside D.C., where they will elect new officers, including a new chair. The Congressional Black Caucus will boast a record 62 members for the next session of Congress, contributing toward the highest number of Black federal lawmakers in history. Now, in all, 67 Black people will serve in Congress. 5 Republican members are not listed as members of the CBC. And the selection of 2 billionaire investors, Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick, cement a hold by Wall Street executives over the 2 most important economic posts in any administration. That is the Treasury Department and the Department of Commerce. Trump's choices to lead his economic team show the prominence of billionaire investors in setting an agenda that is supposed to be all about blue-collar workers, but skeptics think will mostly benefit the rich. The picks by Trump are drawing blowback from Democrats and left-leaning groups who assail Trump for giving top jobs to rich donors and suggested that they would soon be working to create new tax breaks and other incentives for billionaires and doing nothing for those who are struggling. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and in this hour, we go a little deeper. We dig behind those headlines and bring you the stories that people are talking about. Well, the Democratic National Committee is on the minds of a lot of Democrats because they are going to have a major leadership change. Jamie Harrison, who's been at the helm for several years, is stepping down, and a new chair will be elected February 1st. A couple of folks have already thrown their hats into the ring: Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley and Minnesota Democratic Chair Ken Martin, with lots of questions swirling around the Democrats, including where's the autopsy? Where's the postmortem on why and how we lost the election? And what is being done to cater to or to try to claw back voters that we lost in pretty much every Democratic group? Some pollsters say that Donald Trump, some are calling it brilliantly, found 2 million white voters that did not vote in 2020. And that was partially a big part of why he won the election. Meanwhile, Democrats lost voters, particularly voters in their key demographics like Latinos and Black voters in major cities from Philadelphia to New York. A lot of Black women, I'm sure you've seen online, are saying, we are tired, we are resting, we are reflecting. Don't ask us to do nothing. We're done. We're tired. We gave 150% to the Democratic Party in this election cycle. We did everything we were asked to do and more, and we still came up short, not because we didn't show up to the polls, but because other folks bought into so much of the propaganda and voted in some ways that are against their own interests. So how likely is it that Black women are really going to throw their hands up and remain kind of on the sidelines? Is that really going to be the fate of Black women Democrats who are the backbone of the party? And what is the new party chair of the DNC going to do to claw back those voters? Who is that chair even going to be? I haven't heard a lot of excitement or seen a lot of excitement online for Martin O'Malley or Ken Martin. A lot of folks have been talking about the need for someone like Stacey Abrams, who put together those, 500,000 voters in Georgia to help flip that state when we elected 2 Democratic senators. They say we need someone like her. Folks like Keisha Lance Bottom, she's been mentioned by some Black folks online. I've heard others say, oh no, can't have 2 Black chairs back to back, Jamie Harrison and another Black person. So it just seems like the Democrats are in a lot of turmoil, a lot of finger pointing at Kamala Harris, the Kamala Harris team. A lot of people still talking about the race was lost because Dems burned through a bunch of money, put too much emphasis on celebrities, paid too much to big stadiums in Houston and Nevada. So just a lot of backstabbing, knifing going on when we should be really coming together trying to figure out what is our strategy and pathway to winning midterm elections that will be here before we know it in 2 years. And then obviously the presidential election. So we've got a lot to talk about in terms of what is the Democrats' playbook going forward. And here to help us make sense of all of this is Alvin Tillery. He is the co-founder of 2040 Strategy Group, and he's a prominent national pollster. So when we come forward, Alvin is going to help us understand what happened and how we deal with a demoralized Democratic Party. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
We're not just a thermometer recording and broadcasting popular opinion. We aim to be a thermostat, transforming the conversation about climate justice in our community. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We're thrilled to announce that the Dear Future Wifey podcast is now available on the Urban One Podcast Network. This show, hosted by Latiris R. Whitfield, explores the journey of discovering and rediscovering love and relationships. With over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, Dear Future Wifey has become a prototype for discussions about love and relationships. Learn how to rediscover love, heal, and have faith in relationships. Go to urbanonepodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you know that 1 in 6 African-American men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer? This month, every time you purchase Gillette's family of products, they'll donate to support Movember. Whether you're looking for Gillette's Best Shave, a regimen to help prevent new shave irritation and bumps, or award-winning beard care products, every Gillette purchase can make a difference in the fight against prostate cancer. Visit pggoodeveryday.com/Movember for details. Exclusions apply.
Hey, I am D.L. Hughley, host of the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, heard weekdays from 2 to 4 exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. I promise to make you think a little, but laugh a whole lot more. So tune in to the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show 2 to 4 only on KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back, and Alvin Tillery, poster and founder of 2040 Strategy Group, is joining us. All right, Alvin. Democrats are mad. Some feel demoralized. Some feel betrayed. A lot of Black women online, are saying things like minding my Black business from 2024 to 2029. Black women are encouraged to rest, to reflect, and to let someone else carry the mantle of the Democratic Party. A lot of, disappointment about the outcome of this election. Tell us what the pollsters got wrong, if anything, and then we're going to talk a lot about the pathway forward.
Yeah, well, the pollsters really didn't get much wrong at all, frankly. I mean, most of us predicted this would be a race that would be within the margin of error, probably decided by 2 to 2.5 points, and it looks like it was decided by about 1.5 points. A very close election. And so I think
you're right about that, Alan, but near the end, there were pollsters who were predicting that Kamala Harris was going to win.
Well, I mean, I ran 11 tracking polls from October 23 to October 24, and only in my last tracking poll, 2 weeks out, did I see any numbers that looked like Kamala Harris was going to have a chance to win. And I think the reality of that is that the polls before that showed that Joe Biden was doing even worse. And, a lot of mistakes were made in terms of strategy. First, when Biden was at the top of the ticket, and then also when Harris was at the top of the ticket. And the fact of the matter is the votes to put Harris in the White House are in the Black community, and they just did not go out to the polls. That's not the fault of the voters. It's the fault of the Democrats who did not message properly to get the people that they needed out, the swing voters, to the polls. And that's the reality of it.
So we saw a lot of focus on Black voters. So first of all, Kamala Harris had 107 days. So we have to be really clear about what she was working with. She came in, basically picked the party up on her back. And was probably the only person that could have gotten 74 million votes and got within that margin of error that you just described.
That's true.
So I think that's important to note. But the Black vote at some point did become central. I mean, Black male votes, a Black agenda for Black men, appearing on Black podcasts, going into Black communities, surrounding herself with Black influencers. So when you say the strategy failed or was flawed when it came to going after those, irregular Black voters, some call them low propensity, some call them, low propensity voters. Yeah. What was wrong with the strategy?
The strategy of waiting until 3 weeks out and starting to rally, Gen X influencers, having a stadium rally, or having people like Oprah or Magic Johnson speak up for you, is flawed when the Black swing voters are under 35, right? When they're Gen Zers, when they are not swayed by those influencers that you're having out, sort of in these public pronouncements of their support for you, which have a very.
To be fair, there were younger influencers out, Cardi B, Meg the Stallion. I mean, there were a number of.
It's too late, too little. When Elon Musk is spending $100 million a month on digital ads that young people are seeing 100 times between October 1st and the election day. So part of the dilemma is that Black people need to understand that the way to mobilize Black voters under 45 has changed markedly. And they also need to understand that there's asymmetric warfare now, in the sense that, yes, it's great to have celebrities and all these people endorsing you but it would be much more impactful if they would actually cut a bunch of checks and give them over to ad makers to make ads to counter what Donald Trump is doing. And that didn't happen. And frankly, people like me, I warned the Biden campaign 12 months ago that they were soft on Black voters under 40. And no one believed us. And I'll also say a lot of the Black elected officials and people in the culture, there's no way that, Black millennials and Gen Zers are going to, not turn out for Harris. Well, that was all wrong.
Well, let me ask you this. Hold on a second, Alvin.
Mobilizing, we'd be better off.
hold on a second, Albert. Young voters never perform at the level that people expect. I mean, they are just not the core of the Democratic Party or any party. I mean,
that's true, Areva. But what I'm saying to you is what you have to understand is that we've undergone tremendous generational change in the Black community. So first of all, Black voters of every demographic way overperform their educational status and their socioeconomic status, even young Black voters. So let's be clear about that. But with the baby boomers and the silence, my parents and grandparents' generations dying off, they're being replaced by millennial and Gen Z voters who are much less stable Democratic voters than the silence and the boomers were. And so the problem is you have a political class that's all of the Gen X and boomer generations, and they look around and they say, well, like everyone in our church is going to vote Democrat, and well, all the influencers who support us are voting are Democrats. Yeah, but the young people needed to be sold much more directly. And so if the Democrats take away one lesson from this election, it's now the most stable Democratic voting bloc. About 40% of that bloc needs to be sold aggressively, just like you spend money and media attention selling white women who vote Republican, trying to flip them to Democrat. You now have to spend an equivalent amount of energy and resources on ads moving.
Let me push back on you a little bit, Albert.
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, and I too was frustrated with the Democratic Party in terms of how it distributed resources. They have the playbook, the regular usual suspects that have the firms, the ad firms, the big white firms get all the money.
Yep,
we know that. And
$1.5 billion wasted.
Yeah, and it wasn't until we broke that story. The story started breaking. It made the national news that Black folks weren't getting anything, and they had to really push. So I'm with you with that. We're going to talk about that. But I guess what I'm feeling in this moment is that the Black voters have been stepping away from the Dem party way before this election. So this isn't just a Kamala Harris election issue. We saw, after the 2008 vote for Obama, Black voting, a lot of folks are disillusioned about hope and change in 2012. We saw it in 2016. We maybe saw a bounce at 2020. But so this notion of Black voters, the Dems have had a problem. Now, it wasn't huge because Black voters still, overwhelmingly vote Democratic. But this kind of slippage, let's call it that, has been happening over several election cycles.
Yeah, not in this way. So in 2008, Barack Obama got 95% of the Black vote. In 2012, he got 93%. That 93% saved him because he only got 38.5% of the white vote. In 2016, Hillary was at 85%. Joe Biden was a little better than that in 2020. Harris was at 78%. We modeled back last October that they would need 84% of Black men to be competitive. But, you had a lot of people saying there's no reason to believe that.
Well, but wait now, but even if people believe that, we know that Black men, and I was out in these streets across the nation talking to Black men, I don't think there were any ad that you could have come up with, I could have come up with.
Well, I did come up with some, and I ran them for 6 weeks.
Well, I'm just saying that Kamala Harris had a problem with Black men that wasn't going to be overcome in 107 days by ads. So
yeah, the sexism argument doesn't hold up, Areva, and here's why.
Well, it's not just sexism. That wasn't the only issue that Black men were talking about on the campaign trail. There were a lot of other issues with her, and some of it, not as bad as Hillary Clinton, but there was some critique of her that's been baked in since she's been a national candidate that just couldn't be overcome. And I don't know, hindsight is 2020. Maybe more ads, as you're suggesting, may have on the margins impacted some of those voters.
Let me tell you why I think the ads would have made a difference. Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say that again.
Let me tell you why I think the ads would have made a difference. Right. So all throughout, since we started tracking last fall, Biden was at about 65% of Black support. Harris came in the summer, and she was at around 60% Black male support. Right. And I also want to say there's a lot of talk about Black men, but I just want to be clear. Millennial and Gen Z Black women were softer on Harris than Boomer and Gen X Black women were. So like even they didn't grow to the level of the Gen X and the Boomer generations did, right?
Let me ask you this, Alvin. Now, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Why were Biden's number at 60% amongst Black voters, given all that the Harris and Biden administration did around student loan debt relief, infrastructure? I mean, why was that support so soft?
Well, I mean, a lot of reasons. One, I mean, they made two big promises that they didn't keep. One was the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I mean, a lot of those young people went out and stood in line for 3, 4, 5 hours in 2020 for the first time, and they didn't get that done. And then they made a promise on the George Floyd Policing Act, and they allowed Tim Scott and the Republicans to kill that with the filibuster while the Democrats held power. And so those are two big broken promises. And then they talked about, listen, we started polling on how is Bidenomics landing on Black voters last fall, and it wasn't landing at all because they're talking about things like, you know, inflation reduction and fixing the potholes. All of that stuff has not been fixed in Black communities yet, right? And then you get to the reality that Israel's war on Gaza is also a big drag on, you know, Black public opinion. It's a big drag on white college educated public opinion as well. But like those three issues, the war, the two big broken promises, and then not talking squarely to the most vulnerable, the most precarious elements of the Black community, talking about things like home loans and, you know, small business loans to people who are probably working 2 gig jobs and are worried about rent being too high. This is not going to drive people to the polls in the way that you needed.
Yeah, I'm not going to blame Harris or Biden in particular, he's the president, for the George Floyd and the Voting Rights Act. That just, I think, shows the failure of our country to educate voters about the reality of politics and the division of our government, the branches of government. So I don't know. The Biden administration got blamed for a lot of things. And obviously, when you're running for president, you make a lot of promises and people have every right to hold you accountable. But to say that you're not going to vote for a Democratic president because those two things didn't get done when there were plenty of things that did get done in the administration that were beneficial to Black voters. And the alternative being now Donald Trump. We can just look to his dismissal of all his criminal cases today. And for me as a civil rights lawyer, I mean, this is the most demoralizing day ever to see a man who has 34 felony counts basically get to walk free. And to see 2 billionaire investors are going to be over economic policies. So all these millennials who you said are worried about gig jobs, working 2 jobs and rents, do they really think that the Trump cast of characters, these 2 billionaire cabinet picks, are going to do anything to make their lives better?
Well, I think most don't think anything about it because they're not informed about that. And I'm just going to respectfully disagree on those 2 big laws because the Biden administration whipped them. And so what people know is that the Democrats controlled the Senate and they did not destroy the filibuster to get those laws done. And so that's a problem.
When did they have the votes to destroy them? When you had Joe Manchin and other Dems in Senate saying they wouldn't vote to destroy the filibuster. When did they have the votes to do that?
Well, they had consent decree with McConnell to remove the filibuster on judges, right? So you can do, they could have negotiated harder, I think is what.
Oh, come on, Alvin. Say that about, I mean, I voted for that about everything that the administration does.
What I'm telling you is that the people in these focus groups and polls don't have time for these explanations, right? Because they are not very informed.
They don't, which is a problem because they don't have time for them and they bought into the propaganda. We now have Dr. Oz leading our health policy and Robert F. Kennedy leading our health policy. So their lack of information is going to cause them grave harm, both economically and potentially health-wise. So,
but that also goes back to the Democrats' problem. Donald Trump ran targeted digital ads to men of color, saying he was going to lower prices, saying that, you may send your son to school and they will come home a daughter, saying that the Democrats are responsible for high prices. Like we ran ads, my super PAC, on stop and frisk. And in the 53 zip codes where we ran ads, Black turnout did not go down as much as it did in other areas. We are a shoestring budget, $250,000. Imagine if the $1.5 billion that the Democrats spent to run ads about, I don't know what,
Well,
if they actually
I'm not an
targeted
apologist for the Democratic Party or how the campaign dollars were spent. So you're not going to get a debate from me out of that, because we can find plenty of fault in that. When we come forward, I do want to talk about moving forward, because the past is the past. Now we got midterms in 2 years, presidential election in 4, and this big election in February for the DNC chair and other officers. What may happen that could possibly get the Democrats back in contention for these big elections coming up? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580, when we come forward.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Closing arguments in Daniel Penny's New York subway manslaughter trial will begin after Thanksgiving. Penny's defense argues he did not intend to kill a homeless black man, Jordan Neely, but acted in self-defense. Prosecutors say Penny continued choking Neely after the threat was gone. Spelman College is now looking for a new president. The Atlanta HBCU announced that Dr. Helene Gale announced she was leaving her position at the head of the school. The Powhatan, Virginia NAACP honored 93-year-old Florine Bell for her civil rights work on Saturday at Mount Zion Baptist Church. Bell recalls witnessing Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, calling it exciting, but noting the dream still remains unfulfilled. And according to the Farm Bureau Federation, a traditional Thanksgiving dinner will cost less this year, with a meal for 10 averaging $50. That's down $10 from 2023 thanks to lower prices for turkeys and other staples. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Pasadena is slow-moving 210 eastbound away from Lincoln. Delays extend all the way to the 57 freeway. More slowing ahead in Upland from Baseline as you travel towards the 15. Speaking of the 15, a terrible crash on the southbound side in the Cajon Pass just before Kenwood. The 2 right lanes remain blocked. Huge delays out of Hesperia getting away from Main Street. It's affecting both directions of the 138 approaching the 15, and delays on the northbound side of the 15, jammed from the 210 all the way back to the 138. Irvine, the 5 northbound, slowing down from the 133 freeway, heavy and slow as you travel all the way to Euclid in Anaheim.
Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale is here, and it's your chance to hit the sleep jackpot. Starting Friday, shop major doorbusters and get a queen mattress for $89.99, plus a free pillow. Offer ends Sunday. In-store pickup only. See store for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A day after beating top-ranked South Carolina, the UCLA women's basketball team is now the #1 team in the country. Voters in the Associated Press Top 25 poll put the 5-0 Bruins in the top spot for the first time in school history. The Bruins were number 5 in the country before Sunday's landmark win over South Carolina, the defending national champions. South Carolina had been number 1 for 61 consecutive weeks and had a 43-game winning streak. USC is ranked 6th in this week's poll, giving the LA market 2 Division I teams in the top 10. Congratulations to Tennessee State's football team and their head coach, Eddie George, the Hall of Fame NFL running back. The 9-3 HBCU team was given an at-large berth in the NCAA Division I AA playoffs. Tennessee State, a member of the Big South Ohio Valley Conference, will play a first-round game Saturday against Montana. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to take your business to new heights? KBLA Talk 1580 is your partner in success. Every day, we celebrate and elevate Black-owned businesses across our community. Our KBLA SMB Marketplace currently features The Cookie Dip, Badass Bakes, Hair Concoction, Higher Education Accreditation Consulting, LACC Radiology Technology Department, and Malik Books. Your business deserves to be heard. Let KBLA Talk 1580 amplify your voice and connect you with our powerful community of listeners. Email smb@kbla1580.com today. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your flag.
Are you tired of being stuck without internet access? Connect and go with LA County Library. It's simple. Visit your local LA County Library location and borrow a hotspot for free to get Wi-Fi wherever you are.
Are you ready to level up your education? Free and easy access to the internet and Wi-Fi gives you the tools you need to excel in your studies. Stay connected with teachers, collaborate on group projects, and access valuable online resources to graduate with confidence. From research and online classes to staying ahead in your academic journey, the internet is your key to success. Find your connection at libraries, parks, and community centers. To learn more about how LA County is connecting our communities, visit lacountyandU.com. That's lacountyandU.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We're back, and Alvin Tillery is here. He's a pollster and he's co-founder of 2040 Strategy Group. We've been agreeing and somewhat disagreeing on what went wrong for the Democrats in this recent presidential election, but I think we both agree that whatever happened, we need to figure it out and get it together, because we have big elections coming up in just 2 years. We have midterms, and then we have another presidential election where Donald Trump will not be on the ballot if the Constitution holds, that is. So, Alvin, Democrats got a lot of rebuilding to do, starting with the DNC. Jamie Harrison will no longer be the chair of the DNC. They're going to be picking a new chair in 2025, February, that is. And a couple of folks have already thrown their hats into the ring, including Governor Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland, Minnesota Democratic Chair Ken Martin, Chair Ben Whitker of Wisconsin is also saying he's going to announce. But a lot of folks think someone like Stacey Abrams, who put together that impressive win, or all those voters that she was able to register that resulted in the win for those two Democratic senators in Georgia, should be in the mix as well. What are you thinking about what is needed in this moment in the next chair for the DNC?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what we need is someone that has a proven track record of mobilizing communities of color. I think what we saw in this election is that the old racial triangulation strategy that was developed by Bill Clinton and his team in the 1990s and is kind of hung around for decades is dead, right? I mean, I think the nonsense that VP Harris ran a woke campaign and that's why she lost, when we know that, as I said at the top of your show, there were enough votes in the Black communities in the swing states to deliver her to the White House, and that people just didn't turn out. And I think a big part of the reason why they didn't turn out is that And we can quibble over, whether the George Floyd Act is, their fault or not. Why people didn't turn out is because they do such a sort of Herculean effort to portray themselves as in the hunt for white suburban voters that they dilute their brand as a progressive party. And so you have a Democratic Party that looks undifferentiated from the Republican Party. And you have a Black voter class, a Latino voting class, young college-educated whites that want more progressive policy in terms of both economic offerings. But, with Black voters, they also wanted, people to defend the DEI programs that are constantly under attack. They wanted conversations about, protections of their civil rights. They wanted to know about, what was going to be done in terms of healthcare, right? And all these things that there's just not a lot of time to do that when you're running has, your goal is to keep white swing voters that didn't really swing hard enough comfortable, trotting out Liz Cheney and all these things. And so someone that's going to go back into the base and find a way to hypermobilize that base in the way that they did with Obama in 2008 and 2012, and then with Biden in 2020. That's what the Democrats need. But I don't know that they're going to ever admit that because the donor class is older, whiter, and thinks that racial triangulation still works. So.
Let me ask you this. What did the Biden 2020 group strategist team do to mobilize that base that was missing? Because I don't remember the Biden folks talking about those issues that you just identified were important to Black swing voters when he ran. And I just may not remember it. So refresh my memory if he did, in fact, do that.
Well, he did talk about racial equity. He promised to appoint the first Black woman to the Supreme Court, which he did. He promised to overturn Trump's ban on diversity, equity, inclusion programs at the federal government, which he did. And he made constant appeals to Black voters being the source of his political strength through Mr. Clyburn. Now, immediately after that victory, they took all of the energy of 35 million people of all races going out into the streets in 2020 to march in protest of the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and threw it all away by running in the midterms on fund the police because they thought it would get Tim Ryan a Senate seat in Ohio, which it did not. And that's a large part of why they lost the House in 2022, right? And so since that time, they've been using that old triangulation strategy of, let's not talk much about the things that Black and brown voters want.
But Alan, I gotta disagree with you on that. Kamala Harris talked to Black voters, let's talk about what we do agree with. I do agree that the Democratic Party still is run by the donor class, white, wealthy people that don't often understand how to talk to and how to motivate voters of color. That you and I are completely in agreement on. I was more involved with the DNC this election than I've ever been. And I was quite frankly very, very disappointed in what I saw. Talked to a lot of Black staffers. I mean, talk about unhappy people.
I talked to them as well, so we don't disagree on that.
So very unhappy people. The Black folks that work at the DNC were just too fit to be tied with the way they were treated, the way their voices were not heard, were not.
What were they trying to get voiced? What were they?
They were trying to voice some of the same things you were saying, and some of the same things I mean, I went on a tour to target. So I spent a year leading up to this election talking to folks who felt like they were being overlooked and ignored by the Democratic Party. Saying over and over again that Dems take them for granted. So I put together this 7-state tour to go and to talk to those voters who felt, overlooked. And, I'm from the north side, North St. Louis, grew up in a housing project. So I have no problem going to North Philly or wherever talking to Black folks in the hood. So I went into every major city of a battleground state and did just that. Door knocked, talked to folks, held events, voter engagement events to try to mobilize those voters. Now, obviously, we needed 10 million people like me doing that. And I didn't see, and I told my folks in California, who I've done a lot of, campaigns with, I was feeling a little, things weren't going so well, because as I was out in those communities door knocking, typically when you have momentum on your side in a campaign, you are running into other organizers. You're seeing the union folks out there. You're seeing some of the other 501c4 groups out there. And I wasn't seeing folks in these neighborhoods. Me and my team, we were it in these neighborhoods. And that didn't look right to me. And that was a problem. That said to me that there weren't enough folks targeting those voters. And then the voters, of course, they were just giving it all to me. So I'm in agreement that Black voters need to be talked to and targeted and brought back into the fold, and that the white folks that lead the DNC were not sensitive to that. So that's what these workers were saying, is that they were advocating, trying to get more resources, trying to get more funding, trying to target those voters, and they were just getting vetoed left and right.
Yes. So we don't really disagree.
No, we agree with that.
Strategy was to bring enough white women over by saying abortion, abortion, abortion to win the election. And, as a candidate of color, VP Harris could not speak directly about her identity in ways that would have made her vulnerable to losing those voters if that's the strategy, right? And so, all the major media, all the major analysts say VP Harris did not run a campaign that centered race or her identity. And I agree with that. And so what I'm saying is the voters did not buy that. And so we need a Democratic National Committee chair that understands that and doesn't.
What do you think of these guys who are running right now? The names we know.
I have no, no viewpoint on that right now.
Okay, I don't know their work.
Largely because as a Democratic pollster, I may very well have to work with or for them, right? Okay. But
just so you know their background. That's what I mean.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I don't think it's a particularly difficult job, and I think all of these people are skilled enough to do the job. The flaw with the Democrats is strategy, and they're going to have to come to grips with something that even the Obama folks did not really understand, which is that the Democratic coalition runs through communities of color, and spending, $200, $300 million with American Bridge or whatever, trying to flip, rural, suburban, like the fact that we get 45% of white voters is a gift. Let's keep that, build on that, and hypermobilize communities of color. And we should win every election going forward. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I don't hear the Democratic National Committee candidates saying that makes me fear that they have not learned anything from what happened 2 weeks ago.
When we come forward, I do want to talk with you about what the autopsy post-mortem has been, because as a Dem, I'm still getting a lot of requests for money, but I'm not getting any emails saying, hey, this is what we learned from this election, and this is what we're going to go do moving forward. And we'll talk about that and talk about who's lining up for 28, because folks are already lining up for 28, and what you think might be the best strategy for
I do have some favorites for 28. So
okay, we'll talk about that on the other side when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Okay.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
If you're an adult in need of accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You can earn one for free in as few as 5 months online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website at lapl.org/diploma. That's lapl.org/diploma.
Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024 and beyond. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has worksource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
All right, Alvin, you said you don't have a whole lot to say about the guys that have thrown their names in the hat in terms of wanting to be the DNC chair, but that you have some thoughts about the potential candidates for 2028. And yes, it's not too soon to start thinking about 2028. In fact, we know folks like Gavin Newsom, the governor of the state where I am in California, is definitely thinking about 2028. So talk to us about who your favorites are for 2028 president.
So I think Governor Newsom would be a formidable primary opponent. My 2 favorites are Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker and Maryland's Governor Wes Moore. I think that they would both be able to hold together the Obama coalition in ways that the other, I assume the other 3 blue state governors, are Bashir, Healy, Shapiro are also considering runs. But I think that, first, Governor Moore is just a very charismatic figure who would go a great way toward revitalizing the youth vote and bringing out communities of color. I think, Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker has a lot going for him. He is a legitimate billionaire who can self-fund. He has governed in a way that has shown great humanity in the state of Illinois, right? There's been a lot of talk about these reparations, commissions and ordinances at the state level. Governor Pritzker so far is the only one of the 5 blue state governors to actually sign a bill that's put money into a kind of reparative project. I know you know a lot about reparations, Areva. I'll see you in Evanston, I hope, in a couple weeks, right? And
Yep.
and I think that Governor Pritzker, he stood up against the book bans on Black history and other things. That was another big issue that was coming up in our polling. Like, why hasn't the Biden-Harris administration said more about the book bans, the ban on affirmative action? Governor Pritzker's taken the right stands on these things. Mm-hmm. And I think that he is someone that we should look to as a potential leader of the party going forward.
When do we start seeing Alvin? I mean, Gavin Newsom is, doing things that those of us that know politics know that he's positioning himself to run something that he has been behind, or at least his strategy team has been behind a lot of the hit pieces on Kamala Harris. We know candidates do that often. They start leaking things and, doing hit jobs on folks that they want to neutralize. But when will we start to see active, running for president, folks announcing it, or folks coming out and going to visit swing states and things of that nature? When does that typically happen?
I think your governor's already running. I mean, he's got that
he's been running
got that huge. He's been running for 2 years. I mean, he challenged, Ron DeSantis to that weird debate, and he's got that huge list, that he's been pushing about preventing gun violence and so on. So I mean, I think that's already happening. I do want to caution those governors that think running to the right of where.
But other than Newsom, when would you expect to see folks like Pritzker, if they are going to run? When might they start doing more things that indicate that they're running? Newsom has been running for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too early now. I mean, I think you could probably start thinking about next January when the off-cycle elections happen. Start seeing people heading to Virginia to be, surrogates there for, the Democratic candidates there. Start seeing people, playing in primaries with their super PACs. I mean, I think that's when you'll see that folks are serious about running.
What about Harris? So, big article out today says that Harris has been telling her team, keep all my options open. We know there's talk of possibly her running for governor for the state of California. Newsom terms out in 26, I believe. But all my options open means I could possibly see, Harris could be contemplating another 28 run and running for governor for California.
Yeah, I mean, she's a very skilled, politician, leader. I don't think presidential rematches tend to work out very well.
Donald Trump, Exhibit A.
Well, there wasn't a rematch though.
This won't be a rematch because Trump won't be on the ballot.
Right. Yeah. But I do think, it's just very difficult.
But why? Trump lost to Biden.
Right.
And ran against Harris. I mean, it was Biden first, but ran against Harris. But he lost an election and came back in the very next cycle. He didn't sit it out. He didn't wait out.
Trump held the office before. I think that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Someone who's held the office.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a little easier because people can imagine them being back in the office.
But don't we have some historical examples? I don't know, Richard Nixon or someone, didn't they lose and run again?
Yes, he would be the only one, and then Grover Cleveland ran with non-consecutive terms, as Trump did. But between that, Nixon was governor of California, right? So,
right, and Harris in theory could be, but that would be seemingly just the timing doesn't work out for that. I don't think you can be the governor in 26 and then start running.
Yeah,
for president.
I mean, I think the dilemma when you haven't held the office and you lose in the way that, say, Nixon did to Kennedy in 60 and Harris did, But
you just said the loss was 1.4, percentage point. It was not
right, very similar to what Nixon lost to Kennedy with. So to finish the point is that you've got to have people feeling like they've made a mistake. And so, that is what running for the governor of California would give Harris the opportunity to do, right? That's how Nixon crawled back into the picture.
But did he serve a whole term as governor? I don't remember.
I think he did actually serve an entire.
Right. I'm saying the timing for her would be just weird because that doesn't happen until 26. And by 26, the Pritzkers of the world, the Westmores of the world, they're going to be deeply in to their campaigns, right?
Yeah, and we also, I mean, it's not 1968, right? So the same conservative, mostly white male billionaire donors that deposed Biden and never really wanted Harris at the top of the ticket, which is why they're talking about this nonsense with open primary and all of that when she's the only one that could have inherited the 350 million or whatever that they had raised,
Right.
they're going to be actively working against her because she is tagged with having recently lost, just in the way that a lot of Republicans at the start of their cycle were actively working against Donald Trump. So she's going to have to snatch it just as Trump did this time out. But it's possible.
Yeah, don't count her out, obviously.
No, I never would. She's a
mean,
formidable
74
politician.
million votes.
Yeah, she did a great job. Yeah.
Formidable candidate for sure. But yes, because it's a primary, the white guys are going to show up.
Yes.
And they're going to flex. There's not going to be any deference to her as the VP. And there'll be many, as you said, will be saying she lost. And why bet on a loser? Bet on me. So it's going to be a probably nasty open primary, as primaries typically are. Lots to look forward to, though. Got to have some hope here. And looking at Donald Trump's administration picks don't make us very hopeful. So I'm excited about 28. Real quickly, do we take the House back, you think?
It's going to take substantial investment. I do think, that people who voted for Mr. Trump are going to soon learn that prices will go up. And I also think the constitutional risks that he poses to communities of color, are going to be really, really stark. I mean,
pronounced. Yes.
Going to overturn the Civil Rights Act on probably week one. I mean, and so a lot of the black voters that voted for him don't know what that means.
I gotta leave it there, Alvin. Great analysis as usual. Got to have you back. Obviously, very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for your brilliance, and thank you for sharing some time with me tonight. Next voice that you hear will be Robin Ayers and the Raw Report right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us. Thanks, Alvin.
Schools, police, and more. The Michigan Board of State Canvassers has certified the 2024 general election results.